I did drink that.
Nice. Nice. Okay. I'll actually print it tonight and leave it on Nicole's desk for you so that in case I miss you somewhere, that you can just pick it out. She'll let you know where you need it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just
You
like
have to look when you're trying to stop him.
it'll like nice and tiny months away. But let me know if you do hear anything, and I will respond. Um, okay. All right. Yep.
All right. Good evening. We've got a big crowd in the back row. This is kind of like church. You're all in the back row. The hour of 5:30 has arrived. I'll call to order this special meeting of the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee. This meeting is being broadcast live on the City of Keene YouTube channel and channel 1302. Video is also posted on the city website by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. Anyone who wishes to view a copy of the proposed operating budget will find it on the city website. Copies of the printed agenda are available in the wall pockets just as you enter the meeting room. Public will be recognized to ask questions and make comments on the agenda item under discussion. After being recognized, all remarks are to be made through the chair, and I will not recognize an individual a second time until everyone who wishes has had a chance to speak. Anyone who wishes to address the committee is asked to go to one of the microphones in the room and identify themselves by name and address prior to speaking. We do have a quorum, so I'll call us to order. Our minute taker is doing this remotely, so please make sure that you turn your microphone on. With that, first item is the 79E Community Revitalization Tax Relief Application.
Good evening, Dale Angelo, City Assessor.
Zach Luce, 317 Court Street, owner of 34 Court Street.
All right, so we're here tonight as a result of a public hearing that we had at last City Council meeting on the 79E application. So I won't go into all the details we went over during that. But there are a couple things that we're looking for from this committee tonight. One is to make a determination if this project is eligible for 79E and to outline what the public benefits are. And then if it does meet the qualifications, how much tax relief that the City Council wants to provide the applicant. The staff has reviewed the application in full. And from our perspective, the applicant does meet all the criteria for tax relief. It is in the district. It does provide at least $5,000 in energy efficiency. Does have a minimum of $75,000. You do have the full application in front of you. The applicant was pretty thorough in his application, provided great cost estimates, plans, and outlined the entire project. So as we looked at all of the criteria that the council has in their resolution, it is our opinion that it met 5 out of the 9, and it substantially meets 5 out of the 9. So from our perspective, we don't see any issue with providing the full 5 years that the applicant is requesting for the tax relief. It's consistent with other projects that we've provided this kind of relief for, and so we believe the same should be provided here. With that, I'll see if the applicant wants to mention anything further.
Yeah, thank you. I would just add that I really appreciate 79E. It really helped with the first project I did. That 5 years really helps with making a big investment in an old building. It was wildly successful, and I've continued to invest in restoring the stained glass windows and the old wood trim and stuff in that 5-year time period as well. And I intend to continue to fully restore the building. So I think this is going to be a great asset for downtown Keene. It meets many of the public benefit requirements for 79E, and another 5 years for this project would really help with investing more deeply in energy efficiency and making the project a success. So I really appreciate your consideration and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions up here? Are we going to ask him when he opens? When's he going to open?
That's true. I think I
Go
heard that
ahead.
one already.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Luce, for bringing this forward and all the work that you've done in that building. It's great to keep that church lively and active. So I'm really excited to see this project go through. So I do have one question, which I think is going to be for the city assessor. Just you mentioned just a moment ago that it definitely qualifies for the 5, at least substantially. It was 0.9, I think, that was maybe the one that was in question. There was 3 other ones that the applicant had was open that of course they weren't going to be satisfying. But number 9, I was just curious on that one. So this is the one, increase in energy sustainability in conformance with the initiatives. Then it calls out the energy score and the carbon emission reduction.
Right.
I know there were a number of things that were called out with the boiler and some of the insulation. Is this more just it doesn't technically meet those technical qualifications for why we don't think that it also captures that 6th one there?
Right, I think it is important to recognize the energy efficiencies the applicant is providing for that. It is the home energy score, that's more residential based. And this is one of the criteria we're gonna look at when we review 79E in a couple of months with a consultant that we're bringing in, because we do feel that it's geared specific to residential. But otherwise, yes, there's a lot of energy efficiency being applied to this building.
And if I could, I would just add that this phase of the renovations will completely get the building off of fossil fuels forever. So.
Nice, very nice. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Now I want to ask your question. Do you know when you're opening?
We're aiming for late September, early October. We want to do an Oktoberfest grand opening.
Very nice.
Excellent.
Not a required question.
Well, any public member want to speak? Excellent, very good. We're going to need a motion, a fairly lengthy motion.
Certainly. And just before I do, as I've mentioned before, I definitely think it meets those 5. So, all right. Move to recommend that the structure proposed for redevelopment located at 34 Court Street is a qualifying structure as defined by RSA 79E, that the structure is not within a currently defined tax increment financing district, that the structure is not a residential property subject to an election for tax assessment relief under the Low Income Housing Tax Credit Program of RSA 75(1)(a), that the proposed rehabilitation cost estimates exceed the threshold amount of $75,000 and constitutes substantial rehabilitation, and that the proposed rehabilitation provides the following public benefits as required by Resolution R 2018-33, enhances the economic vitality of downtown areas, enhances and improves a structure that is culturally or historically important on a local, regional, state, or national level, promotes the preservation and reuse of existing building stock. It promotes the efficient design, safety, and a greater sense of community in a manner consistent with the Keene Comprehensive Master Plan. And it will add to the city's employment base by creating at least one new full-time job in Keene's downtown area. Therefore, the committee recommends that the application for property tax relief on any assessed tax increment resulting from the substantial rehabilitation of the qualifying structure be granted for a period of 5 years, beginning with the substantial rehabilitation as determined by the city's Community Development Department, and conditioned upon the property owner granting to the city at the time of substantial completion a covenant ensuring that the structure shall be maintained and used in a manner that furthers the public benefits for the period of the tax relief, to be recorded at the Cheshire County Register of Deeds at the expense of the property owner.
Second.
Okay, so moved and seconded. Any further discussion here? All in favor? No one's opposed, unanimous. Thank you very much, good luck.
Thank you.
The next item is an engineering agreement for Spring Street Bridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Brian Ruoff, City Engineer. Last winter, DOT performed a inspection of the city's bridges, of which 3 were identified by DOT as having critical deficiencies, which potentially could limit their loading capacity. Those specific bridges are the George Street Bridge over Beaver Brook, Spring Street Bridge over Beaver Brook, and the Beaver Street Bridge over Beaver Brook. Of these 3 bridges, the George Street Bridge is currently in final design, and we're looking to bid that project in the fall of this year to replace that bridge. So we've got that covered. The other 2, with the letter from DOT of critical deficiency, there's a potential that if the city does nothing, that we will have to close those bridges. So essentially what we're asking to do is appropriate monies for an engineering structural study to say what's safe to be used on these bridges going forward. We've solicited from qualified engineering firms, 3 of them. We received prices. We identified the firm with the most competitive pricing, and we'd like to go forward with them. This item also coexists with your agenda item number 5 for tonight, which is a resolution for these funds. The agreement and execution of the agreement would be contingent, obviously, of that approval of resolution by City Council. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have at this time.
Questions here? Nobody in the public, so. Looking for a motion? Oh, looking for a motion.
Let me take that one.
I'll take this one. Move the Finance Organization Personnel Committee recommend that the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute an engineering services agreement with Hoyle and Tanner for the Beaver Street Bridge and Spring Street Bridge load rating study up to $25,000.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Nobody opposed? Unanimous? We have another one.
Thank you. This one's another engineering agreement. The Marlborough Street Corridor Reconstruction Project is a New Hampshire DOT-funded project. A condition of that, we're required to solicit for a qualification-based selection process wherein we ask for qualifications from qualified engineering consultants for to determine a selected consultant for engineering services during construction for the project. We went through this process. We started it late last year in anticipation of construction early this year. We've gone through and reviewed the scope and fee by the identified consultant GPI and received approval from DOT for these engineering services for the project. We haven't finalized because we're asking for approval here, but we're pretty sure that both the engineering estimate and the proposal from GPI came within $10,000 of each other, so they're pretty much right in line with what we expected. This is 80% funded by DOT and 20% city match. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions? This firm, have we used them in the past?
Yes. They were the construction engineer for the Winchester Street project, and they've been very good to work with.
Members of the public? All right. Motion, please.
Move to authorize the city manager to do all things necessary to execute an agreement with Greenman/Pedersen, Inc., GPI, for engineer service during the construction as part of the Marlborough Street Corridor Construction Project 75J0018B, up to $300,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? No one's opposed. That one's unanimous. And next,
Your next agenda item is very similar. We actually advertised in the same request for qualifications. This one, however, is for the George Street Bridge replacement. GPI, again, was the identified consultant. We negotiated with them. We have approval from DOT to engage in a contract with them for the project. This, again, is 80% DOT or federal money administered through DOT with a 20% match. The project duration will be roughly the same, about 6 months duration. This is slightly higher than the last one because there's contaminated soils involved in this project, so we'll need environmental services testing and that involved in this project. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
questions up here? Public? Back to you for a motion.
Move to authorize the city manager to do all things necessary to execute an agreement with Greenman Peterson, Inc., GPI, for engineering services during construction as part of the George Street Bridge Replacement Project 75M020A, up to $350,000.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? No one's opposed, unanimous.
Thank you. Your next item is the resolution for the Beaver Street Bridge and Spring Street Bridge load rating study. This has been to City Council for a first reading, and a draft is in your packet for your review and approval as part of this process. I could go over the history, but I just told you, so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions up here? Public? Motion, please.
Move to recommend the adoption of Resolution R 2025-22.
Second.
It's been seconded. Further discussion, members of the committee? Seeing none, all in favor? No one's opposed, it's unanimous.
Thank you. Your next agenda item is allocation of additional funds for the transfer station paving project. So we bid the transfer station paving project in March of this year. We only received one bid despite reaching out to a number of paving companies for the project. And we were significantly under budget. We were about $90,000 under budget. And I attribute it to this, really, is the original budget that was established in the CIP essentially was a shim and paving project. And when me and the city engineer, or the civil engineer that looked at this project, we realized there's a lot more that was needed to get done to make sure that the improvements that were incorporated into this project lasted and we weren't redoing them in 3 to 5 years. So essentially what we're asking for here is additional funds to award this project to finish the paving so it lasts for, we hope, for a good 20 years instead of needing to revisit it in 3 to 5, address the drainage and other issues like that that would impact the pavement that we'd put down as part of this project. With operations being what they are at the transfer station, it's really hard to shut down the station for a day. The contractor has agreed to start work in evenings, so there's no disruption to transfer station services. I think we have a very good contractor on board to do this, and we're asking for this resolution to be able to award the contract and move forward. With this contract, we have two things that are basically contingency items, so we potentially may not even spend this amount. There's a contingency for the project in case anything comes up in the amount of $20,000, and there's an asphalt escalation in the amount of $20,000 as well. So it's possible that we don't need either of those things and we end up becoming under budget anyway. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Questions up here? Members of the public? Who's the paving contractor?
Bazin Brothers out of Vermont.
Okay. Motion, please.
Move to recommend the adoption of Resolution R 2025-23.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion, members of the committee? Seeing none. All in favor? No one's opposed. That's unanimous. Thank you, sir. Next item. So, we're into our bonds. All finance.
So these are the bonds that are associated with the 2026 budget that we've been reviewing. And we separate out each of the bonds to get authorization to be able to bond. And recently, we've been using the bond bank. Before that, we had been going out for bonding on our own. And we've actually saved quite a bit of money using the bond bank. And the first one is for the appropriation of funds for the fire apparatus replacement program. It's $1,308,000 and would be placed in that fund. And the next one is for $687,000, and that's for the Lower Winchester Street reconstruction project. The next one is $1,402,000 related to funds for the roadway preservation and rehabilitation project. That's an annual project where different roads in the community are repaired. And the next one is for the Stormwater Resiliency Program. That's $1,320,000. That's an ongoing program. And then the next one is for $201,000 is the T-hanger apron maintenance project. The next one is related to sewer improvements, so this is for the sewer fund. That's $1,275,000. And the next one is related to the 3 million gallon water tank repair project for $690,000. The next one is related to the funds for the water distribution improvements program. That's at $970,000. And the next one is the well field upgrade, which is $709,000. And that is in total your bonds. These are projects that have been reviewed as part of the capital plan. And each year, when we get to the point where we're appropriating funds for the operating budget, the next year of the CIP is included. And in putting together the operating budget and capital plan for this year, we made very few changes. We only moved the bathroom that was planned for Gilboa Ave out, as the Gilboa Ave project is a couple of years away. And we also moved the West Station Fire Station project out, as that is a project that we intend to continue to move out until we're able to identify some grant funds. So those were the only two changes from your adopted CIP plan, and these projects and bonds were all part of that plan.
Questions up here? Members of the public? Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Manager. I'm going to direct these questions, I think, to the chair, but probably to the manager. I'm interested in what kind of state funds these bonds are leveraging, like the Lower Winchester Street project, or perhaps stormwater resiliency. But if you could answer that question, then I have a follow-up to that.
So we would need to turn to the capital plan in the budget, and I'm looking for that right now. Oh, there it is, 49. Looks like page 49, and on page 49, all of the projects are broken down by funding source. So you would be able to see, actually starting on page 50 and 51, you can see the, how these projects are funded in the CIP plan, but I don't know if I have the breakdown of how much they're matched with grants. We'd have to look at each one, I think each page of the capital plan to do that.
Yeah, that will actually, and then on 52 and 53, it breaks down specifically, you'll be able to see down the bottom of page 53, if there are any grants that are associated with.
Yeah, so if you have a specific project you'd like us to look at, if you look at page 53, the grants are listed for this year. So, for instance, Lower Winchester Street grants, $4,731, just over that. And then the obstruction management project is $475,000. The pavement maintenance program is $158,000. And then we have $330,000 coming in for the transportation heritage program. and the wildlife perimeter fence, which is funded over multiple years, 1.8, almost 1.9 million. So just that little block on page 53 of the capital plan.
Yeah. Just, I didn't know that I might add those up in my head, but it sounds like about $6 million of.
It's 7.5, yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
Pretty good return on this bond, this version of bond requests, leveraging $7 to $8 million of matching funds. So pretty good return to the city there. And I guess, given what we are hearing about state budgets, the lack of any new allocations to some of these funds, maybe try to get your feeling about what the implications of the state budget might be on our ability to leverage that kind of return in the future.
So these grants are a combination of both state and federal funds. For instance, the large dollars coming in for the airport are funded through the FAA, which is primarily federal funding, although we do get a portion of that through the state as well. In regards to this budget for this year, these are grants that we know we have in hand, so we haven't included anything that we're hoping to get. These are things that we did get. And so for future years, it's hard to know what funding sources will be available, and really all we can do is continue to take advantage of what is available. But in terms of other revenue, which I should be talking to you guys, in terms of other revenues from the state, we have level funded those revenues. So things like meals and rooms, we've only included the amounts that we know of right now.
Other questions? So we're going to hold these over, or are we going to pass them?
You would vote on them tonight, because we're ready to do all of tonight is the salary ordinance, the bonds, and the budget.
Whose turn is it?
Dina's.
If there's no objection, I'll take all of them at the same time.
You're a good man.
All right. Move to recommend the adoption of the following resolutions: R 2025-13, R 2025-14, R 2025-15, R 2025-16, R 2025-17, R 2025-18, R 2025-19, R 2025-20, and R 2025-21.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I didn't see the attorney jump when we did those together, so.
They were supposed to be,
Yeah.
consolidated. If there is no further discussion, ready for a vote?
Can you turn on your microphone, please?
No further discussion, we're going to vote. All those in favor? No one's opposed, it's unanimous. And the next one is the salary schedule.
Good evening. Beth Fox, Assistant City Manager, Human Resources Director. I'm here this evening requesting a favorable motion to adopt from the Finance Organization and Personnel Committee on the salary ordinance that applies to the city's non-union personnel. There's approximately 100 or so employees that fit in this group. The majority of them are full-time, but they are. It is unusual that we have such a large group in cities, that we have such a large group of non-union personnel, but the ordinance generally reflects a 3% across-the-board adjustment. Some of the other changes in the ordinance are primarily, I'm going to call it context or grammar. One of the, if you look carefully, you'll notice that the description of the salary schedule for the council appointments has been adjusted so it has 6 designators. It always only had 5, and I never could figure out why, but I said, why? Let's fix this, because in the system that we use to administer, we have to have 6 designators. So, and 2 of the designators in the old ordinance were the same designation, so I don't know how I would have set that up in a computer. But generally, there are no other changes in the proposed ordinance besides the cost of living adjustment. I will qualify that by, there is the addition of 2 job titles on the probationary public works hourly wage schedule to align with some changes that were made in the union contracts over the past year. Happy to answer any questions. It is a fairly straightforward presentation this year, at this point.
Thank you. Questions here? Members of the public? If not, a motion.
Move to recommend the adoption of ordinance O 2025-18.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? In that case, all in favor? No one's opposed?
Thank you.
That's unanimous, as it should be on that one. Okay. I'm going to wrap it all up with the biggest one.
This is the biggest one. Excuse me. So this is relating to the operating budget resolution R 2025-12. We did provide you a memo dated May 5th that had a number of proposed adjustments to the budget. They were staff recommended changes. So we did outline that. And then in the attachment this evening, we did show an additional $100,000 for compensated fund balance. So we didn't have that broken out before. It was not included in the aggregated total. So we're just looking to approve the resolution. Not sure if you have any questions or.
Just add just a little bit more about the compensated absences. So it was aggregated as part of the general fund, and a couple of years ago, the auditors required us to separate that out. And basically what that is earned time that has not been used by employees. And so each year we are setting aside funds to have the money available when people use their earned time or when they retire and leave and cash out their earned time. And so we've been doing that I think this second year, and we just needed to separate it out on your resolution, but there's no net change to the budget as a result of that.
Any other discussion? So we're going to amend. Okay.
So the first amendment would be to make the changes that staff has been recommended as we've gone through the budget.
Whose turn is it?
Move to recommend amending the operation budget as described in the May 5th, 2025 memo from the finance director. Net impact to the bottom line is 0.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? No one's opposed. Unanimous. And the next one is yours.
Move to recommend amending Resolution R-2025-12 to include $100,000 in the compensated absences fund and reflect total estimated operating revenues aggregating $81,047,049.
Second.
I know
Go
what
ahead.
you're thinking. I asked this question already. It's because it's not changing the general fund number. Yeah.
So there was 100,000 already accounted for in the general fund. I believe it was under,
Transfer, it was interfund
Yes,
transfers under
yes.
wages.
so it was already
so-
accounted for there.
So
So I
there,
have a different question, actually.
it's a yeah.
So in our,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
in our packet,
Mm-hmm.
the one that's published online,
Yeah.
the number of estimated operating revenues is substantially different than what's in the motion for tonight.
In your packet,
It's off by,
100,000.
it's off by 600,000.
Oh,
additional.
So the packet shows 80,412,389.
I don't know.
Oh, I know what that is.
Okay.
So it was actually in response to your question a couple of nights ago regarding the fleet fund and why we had that $500,000 offset. So I think the wrong one actually got attached in the packet. Because we thought that we were questioning whether or not we had to include that in with all of the other debt in the capital section of the fleet fund, and we did need to include it all. So it's actually what the number should be is the original plus the $100,000 for the compensated fund.
Which should be 81,047.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Here's that's my copy. This just adds the 100.
Yeah, and that's what's in
Okay.
the motion, but it's
Okay.
just not what's in the packet. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Got anything else? Motion, please.
I believe we're voting, right?
Yeah, we're voting.
Yeah.
Moving
True,
second,
true.
yeah. I just
Oh.
was questioning it.
Yep, okay. All in favor? No one's opposed, it's unanimous. So, this is on its way.
Last one.
One more.
I stopped it at the second one.
Yep, you did, didn't you? You're next.
I'm good, all right. Move to recommend the adoption of Resolution R 2025-12A as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor? It's unanimous. So now we're on our way to a public hearing.
Yes. Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
If I may, I want to wish Logan Hood a happy birthday. Logan is in our control room, and he has really stepped up to the plate. He's been flying solo this week. He graduated a week or two ago. He's doing a great job, so happy birthday to Logan.
Happy birthday.
I think he just locked himself in there. Well, thanks for all the churchgoers for showing up tonight. Your support was great. Thanks to everybody who's put a finger into this budget. There's a lot of work, and I think too many people in this community don't have a full understanding of what it takes to get things done. And when you add it to it, a big percentage of time it has to be put to preparing a budget that tries to accommodate everything we need to do. It's a big effort, many nights with the lights on upstairs. And believe me, there are people in those rooms. The light's not just on. A lot of hard work, and should be no trouble, I think, passing this budget amongst the city council. And congratulations to all of you for what you've done. Thanks you guys for coming in as many times as we have. We're eating well, so there's some compensation for this. But good luck with executing this thing come July 1st. We're adjourned.